Whew, here we go. It is starting our second month here on Fight to Flight with Kelly and Mike. How about that?
Wow, that is impressive.
Yeah. Welcome to the program. My name is Mike Hess. I am the COPD dude.
My name is Kelly Becker, and I'm an obesity specialist, wife, stepmother, daughter, hired nurse practitioner today.
Yes, this is Kelly's first day back live in the office, and she just got home moments ago, so we may get some breaking Kelly news tonight. We'll see how it goes. It has been, I will say, for me in particular, last week, if you caught the stream or caught the broadcast that I put together after a little technical glitch, you threw the word tire fire around a lot.
I did. It was a theme.
Yeah, and honestly, that was kind of my theme for this past week. I don't know what it was. I thought I had been dealing with everything suitably, but all of a sudden it just kind of hit that there's a lot. I mean, again, very fortunate that we haven't been really personally impacted so much by coronavirus illness, or knock on wood, yes, coronavirus illness or death or anything like that. But being key opinion leaders, we're fairly linked into, no pun intended, the larger communities around us. And I know I have seen a lot of folks, survivors of it, or people dealing, with the original surge in New York and out west, and then now in Florida and Texas and Arizona and California again. It seems to be a difficult thing to stop, and sometimes a difficult thing to deal with. And again, I know we're very fortunate. We're looking at it from literally a place of privilege, because this is not our normal. We talked about this a little bit last time, I think. There are countless people with chronic conditions who live in isolation and live with distancing and I don't know if I want to say fear, but of heightened awareness, caution of what bugs like this can do. And just all of a sudden, and John reports in with some bad news. His daughter and daughter-in-law have been diagnosed. So John, our thoughts and prayers and good wishes and good vibes and everything else going right out to you and your family. That's now we have 1 degree closer of impact. So I appreciate you stopping by, John. Appreciate you sharing that story, because now sometimes you just don't know what to say anymore. It's been a lot.
Yeah, I was thinking about on my drive home, Mike will be setting up the studio and what we'll be talking about. It's not like we have a script or outline, and I'm like, I'm going to sit down and just see what happens. I'm just...
well, I'll tell you. Oh, sorry.
Just surviving,
I was able to do that just keeps hitting the red, and that just bothers me. I'll turn it down a little bit, and hopefully we won't lose too much of the volume. In looking at what we might be able to talk about today, I did take a look through a couple of websites. Just, we frequently talk about self-care. We have talked about our journeys. We're trying to get back to better health and walk the talk a little bit better. I'll tell you, this weekend was my tire fire. Like I said, everything just kind of hit me, and it was a short weekend, and it was a real short weekend in some respects, because I sat and I played video games for most of it. It was like reverting to childhood. And here we are, joined by Potato. Don't step on that, please.
Come here, honey.
Joined by Potato of the Potato Cast. Oh, now you'll meow. We're trying to get some audio for the Potato Cast intro, and you got nothing to say.
There's your speaker.
Meow. Oh, now we get a growl. Anyway, So, looking at what we could talk about tonight, I came across Psychology Today. Came across an article in there that they did a survey that was conducted and published by the Harris Poll, and they found 2,000. They asked 2,051 U.S. adults aged 18 and over about their health during this pandemic. We've talked a little bit before about exercise has been down and all that kind of stuff, but some interesting findings in here, and I'll be interested to get your. This is totally new information for you.
Dropping it on me right here.
So the first bullet point in the article, and arguably the most important, is that the vast majority of adults, 80%, say that they will be more mindful about practicing self-care regularly once the pandemic is over.
Why wait?
A key takeaway there. I think that's very well said. There's really no reason to wait. I mean, did we freeze?
Yeah, we've been frozen for a little bit.
Oh, we froze on Well, talking about tire fires here. So the video will be fun, as it always is. So 80% of people looking forward to self-care after the pandemic. Why, Kelly, while I'm getting the video going again here, why do you think self-care has been such a low priority for folks throughout this whole, or before this, and even during, you said, why wait? Why aren't people more motivated to perform self-care?
Well, it was, before the pandemic, it was just, I'll get to it, the grind. And it's interesting that you bring this up because I think about this in my own life and what I coach every day and, in my own challenge with it. So I think it's, that's a great idea. I know it's important, and that's something I'm going to get to as soon as I get this thing out of my inbox or this thing done. And then we thought, all right, we've got more time, so let's do that. And maybe a few of us I did some meditation in the first few weeks. I was doing, herbal teas and some other good things. So I'm trying to stretch that shoulder on you. And here I am at, month whatever, and I'm still working on when. There's a paralysis. I think social psychologists could really have a field day with this. It is interesting, and it's been humbling, but I'm trying to just accept it. I feel like I'm speaking around it though. I think everyone wants to do these things and understands the value, but it's difficult to operationalize because it seems like I can't afford the time for that. And then I think the pandemic started to teach us we can't afford not to step back. And, I think it's gone in stages, right? And then it was, it's nice to take a breath and not be this constant hustle. But then the inner work and the other things filled that space. For me, I don't know if everyone else, but I don't know a lot of people who are, skipping around like, I have perfect balance now, as I expected to, That's where I'm beating myself up a bit. But I think learning how to fit it in without it feeling like one more thing, and then making just like with physical activity or anything else, seeing how much better you feel when you make that space and that time, and it is its own reward, but there's the paralysis of it getting started. That's just my opinion.
John maintaining his sense of humor, saying he thought we were ventriloquists while we were frozen there. You mentioned stages, and of course, in healthcare, one of the first things that comes to mind is you have two things: stages of change and stages of grief. And we're not really looking at
development, lots of stages.
Well, I guess it's just me. Maybe it's just me. Those are the first two things I think of. We're not really looking at necessarily changing behavior, although we could have a whole conversation about that if we're looking at adding self-care. But do you think this pandemic has kind of triggered some stages of grief for older lifestyle or an idealized version, perhaps, of our older lifestyle?
I think you're putting your finger right on it. I think, and my brain's too tired right now to really say this in a cohesive or coherent way, but that word ideal, or say that again. Say
Idealized.
yeah. Yes.
Because I think
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think my take on it is subjectively, we were all really, we miss our old lives and all that stuff. But objectively, it's exactly what you were just saying about we didn't have time to do self-care. We didn't prioritize it because there's always too much other stuff in the way. So we're kind of missing a thing we never had in a sense, and then that adds a whole layer of cognitive dissonance on it. And so now,
So it's not just me. I mean, I want to know, if we're throwing this out into the universe, I want to know that it is not just me.
well, I can tell you,
And I coach this
I think-
every day.
I don't maybe coach it as much as you do, but that's a lot of what we do with our chronic condition management stuff.
Yeah.
I think these were kind of revelations or inspirations or whatever, that this is kind of what hit me over the weekend. I've been we talk a lot about how we can intellectually know a thing, but then we don't really, to use the old 60s term, we don't grok it. We don't really get it until
I like that.
Stranger in a Strange Land, it's a good book. We don't really viscerally understand it until we experience it. And I think that's really what I was coming to terms with this past weekend.
Man, yes. Well, and years of therapy, my amazing therapist, Jill Green, I'm planning to call her again, shout out. I remember her saying to me when I was dealing with grief after my father died and other stages, and, as a new professional, single, making it on my own with my career and my mortgage and life. Coping, stress, change, all of that, dealing with wounds of the past. And she said, Kelly, you can intellectualize all day. You can sit across from me and state things very openly, very clearly, but you're not allowing that layer of emotion. And I assumed that I was, like a wide open wound and this, bleeding out emotions, but I could put words to it. The real work came, what it came in changing thought patterns and, reframing and finding other ways to cope and heal and accept. And I absolutely, Mike, I think you're onto something. And maybe we thought that time being home and distancing was going to give us the space we needed and make it easier. And I was probably naive to also think that, hey, it'll be so much easier for me to purge and organize my home, and it will be, it is terrible that this is happening, but I'm happy, I'm healthy and I'm fortunate to be home and be safe, so I can do this thing. But I still found myself stuck, and I was stuck with feelings and other stuff. And I think maybe part of me wants to know I'm not alone in that. I think we are learning from that.
Well, and I think that I can say, because I've listened to a few other podcasts. Shout out to the Potato Cast, and I'm very gotta keep that hype up.
Funny.
But no, in all seriousness, I've listened to other podcasts. I mean, even there's one I listened to, of course, being a sci-fi fan, I've been listening to they're one of the stars of the reboot of Battlestar Galactica, and then a writer who's worked for a lot of the industry publications like Entertainment Weekly and Starlog and all those things. They've been doing an episode by episode rewatch of that series. And from time to time, they have guest stars and things like that. And I'm getting to the point now where they've now gotten into quarantine. It started like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and now they're ongoing. And they've gotten to the point where now they're doing all their stuff on Zoom or WebEx or whatever platform they have. And they have both made mention. Now, again, this is Tricia Helfer. She was number 6. She's a TV star. Maybe not De Niro or something like that, but she's a star, a Hollywood type. And Mark Bernardin, who again is a writer, he's knowledgeable, intelligent, all that stuff. And they have both mentioned multiple times that we thought we were going to be, this was that time to read that book, and this was that time to catch up on the shows and learn a skill, and and they haven't done any of that either. So for what it's worth, it's hitting a lot of the different social strata that are out there. So you are, I can safely say you are not alone, even outside
I
the
think
household.
that's why we're even here talking right now, even though I'm tired as hell. It's just knowing there are others out there with the shared experience.
Well, and boy, these other 3 bullet points are really probably going to flip a trigger or two, too, because I'm going to go slightly out of sequence. And again, this is from Psychology Today. A majority now say they are focused on their mental health. 64% say that they are focused on their mental health now more than ever.
Yeah.
So then that makes me wonder, along those same lines of, why wait? Why did it take a global pandemic for us to start taking care of ourselves?
Yeah, what does that illuminate?
And, you go back to the whole, this is the wake-up call, or the idealized version of our lives. I mean, we thought we were doing great, and
this would make an interesting movie, right? Where you see the people and how they're accepting that their reality doesn't match their idealized reality, despite these. Just walking through the grocery store, it feels like a movie. It just continues to be like, man.
Well, it's funny, as I'm thinking back now, and John, I don't know if you're still watching, but one of the things you said right toward the beginning of this whole experience was, this is a great opportunity for folks with COPD to really step back and look at what their triggers are, because this is a change in routine that is forced upon us. You said, like you were alluding to before, we'll always put off the self-care, we'll do that tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. We didn't have a choice here in many cases. We had to take a look back and look at this routine. And I wonder if that's opening a lot of eyes too, because I know certainly for me, my priorities have changed a lot. That I'm still that there are changes that I have made, changes I want to make, and not stuff about cleaning house and things like that, but what is really important for the next 40 odd years. Hopefully, knock on wood. But what is next for the rest of my life, and what do I want to get out of that? And I, again, kind of had an intellectual idea of what it was, but now I'm really starting to look at that.
Absolutely. And I will fully admit, I'm trying to be more positive. I talk to patients about being positive and celebrating and accepting the mess and imperfections. And I'm in a place right now, all I can see is I look tired. I'm seeing my double chin. I'm seeing how I look in the camera. I make weird mouth movements. I'm trying. What's really important? Who cares, really? You love me anyway, darling.
And the nesters love you.
But I just want to admit, all of us get in weird places in our heads, And if a friend, family, my daughter, my son said something that to me, it'd be like, baby, you're gorgeous, you're amazing, you don't even, don't let that negativity in. Or I've written that as a prescription for patients. But all I can do is pick apart, my hair's so short and blah, blah, blah.
Nurse practitioner healed myself.
Oh, man. Yeah. I'm not in the bottom of my dumpster fire as I was at the last show. And it was quite an eye-opener to be among the walking living today, but surreal and weird. And so I'm interested in your next bullet points and points.
The next one that I want to jump to, 44%, almost half of all the people in the survey, say they wish they had more guidance and support for practicing self-care during the pandemic.
Oh, I keep saying it. We've got all these things we're doing because all of us just kind of need to support each other, right?
So, and there's a positive. There's something that you can kind of sink your claws into. You in particular, you intuited that. You came up with a lot of the idea for this. I like to just hear myself talk, so I like to be live and stuff like that. But, excuse me, putting our combined skills together. Olive, please don't do that. You're going to rip it down.
Yeah. Darling.
And special guest star Olive the cat also joining us.
Hi, darling. Did you miss Mama today?
She was on the Zoom call last night.
Oh, baby.
So here we go. Everybody say hello to Olive.
Oh, she's so pretty. And fierce and strong and smart.
Yes. And so, a little self-care right here. But you saw that need, and it was clear to you as an empath, I think, that people were seeking stuff. And even in our limited fashion, maybe we could help support that, and we could at least be, a
sounding board.
A sounding board or an exemplar that nobody's perfect.
Yeah, let's just throw it out there. We're people who help people, but we're messy.
Yeah.
It's okay. Right, Olive? Woo woo.
Meow. And so going on to, you had a big change in your work today, obviously. It's fallen into the logo a little bit here. 30% reported a lack of energy.
Yeah.
And for no reason. And,
reason.
Again, it comes and goes, too. I mean, there are some days I feel fantastic and, everything is great. And then the next day, it's like I just can't keep my eye open. Which
ennui,
existential ennui is what I called it the other day.
Yeah.
But as I'm sitting here thinking it and saying it out loud, those are also symptoms of depression.
Mm-hmm.
So have we? I mean, we're talking. This is all self-reported stuff, and people are saying that they want to focus more on their mental health right now. But are we? We were already kind of struggling with the level of depression in the country before all of this, and now where are we?
Yeah, I mean, we were already heavily wounded. I mean, we have so many disparities and injustices. I mean, and school shootings and just becoming numb to pain and violence and sadness, and you want to resurrect hope and what's great, and there is, but I think we've been licking our wounds for a while anyway, and we were like, I use a lot of analogies, but maybe we were limping along trying to finish the marathon on one leg. We had a bum leg, and then like someone took out that ankle. I mean, to some degree, I think that's, we have a collective depression.
Yeah. Next one, similar percent. That was 30%. This is 29% have reported difficulty sleeping, which again, stress, depression, anxiety.
Can't shut the brain down.
And the thing we already knew, and I think this number is a little bit low, self-reported convenience sample, 29% exercising less.
Yeah, and all of us were like, we'll have time and we'll do more, and we even had weeks. Well, you better than I have been, but this is the time, and then so why not? And then there's this whole.
But then it comes back to a lot of the other stuff we preach too. During times of stress is not usually an optimal time to change behavior. And we go back to the other stages that I was talking about, the stages of change.
Completely overhaul anyway.
Right. I mean, if we're, I for one had fallen out of a lot of my exercise and activity habits, and again, good intentions, trying to get it started again, but it just wasn't there. So. And
also seeing how it really, I mean, I'll still stand by, and I believe you will too, when we prioritize that. So what's the takeaway? That one thing really sets all the dominoes up for success. So we do get return on investment on that.
For sure.
We can beat ourselves up, but I think staying positive about, I know that if I do this for myself and carve out this self-care time, and this is what it means this is what it is for me, because I'll say to people, what's one thing that you think you can do that will give you the most bang for your buck right now, and that you're willing to do, and then we'll just revisit that. But what brings you what has the most direct positive impact on your quality of life that you define, not me, not anyone else? And, for some people it's, man, I really noticed a difference when I got water, or I really notice if I have breakfast, or if I go to bed on time, or and I think
it's hard to do when you're having trouble sleeping,
right,
and
all
of these things are a cycle.
I do think it's forcing the time for physical activity, because then I sleep better, and then I'm more positive, and it helps me blow off some of those stress hormones and makes me proud, and and I don't want to complain here in Michigan, but I do kind of feel like we went from snow to rain to blast your skin off hot.
We did. I mean, we had our week of spring, and that was about it. And it was a long winter for a lot of reasons. We didn't really have all that much snow, but it was just cold. And then as soon as it started to warm up even a little bit, the Rona.
Yeah.
So those were the big takeaway. In some good news, there were some positive results in this study. And compared to before the pandemic, 35% said that they are practicing more creative activities. 31% that they were praying more. 31% also said they were having more meaningful conversations with friends and family. So we've got about 1/3 of the population who are able to find at least a certain degree of a silver lining and trying some of these new endeavors.
I see that. I see that, and I see that represented. I see that reported. I see that in our own house. That is good.
Yeah.
That is good.
And of course, where'd it go? 83% report that technology has been essential in helping them stay connected. So.
Yeah, who knew, right? I had to adapt to a new webcam today.
Oh.
Yeah, I have to tell you about that.
I
had
wish.
firewall with my own devices. Oh, blah, 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 blah.
I'll tell you, I wish I had heard of Zoom 6 months ago. We'd be moving. We'd be setting up our little beach cabana and broadcasting from there. I'll tell you what, a little bit of an investment on that. But yeah, I mean, that's another thing that I have been a big proponent all the way through. That COVID-19, which the disease, hasn't really caused a lot of these things. It has revealed the problems, and in many cases revealed opportunities. I mean, talking about telehealth. I mean, talking about using technology to stay in contact. These are things we should have been doing. Again, I talk about my COPD people a lot. Those people have trouble leaving the house sometimes, so they don't get the care they deserve. They don't get the socialization they deserve. So why weren't we doing that? Now we're forced to, and now it's like, and now they're saying, well, we can't go back. And I was like, well, yeah, no kidding. Welcome to 5 years ago when everybody was trying to tell you guys this stuff.
I had a blended day today, and I can say that. I mean, and I had some people really killing it today. It was so good to see them. I couldn't hug them. That's a little torturous, but
did you have some live people today?
Yeah.
Oh,
but
I thought this was
mixed.
All virtual.
No, I had a mix today. I had 4 new patients, and one of them, was 2 were live, and anyway. But a part of me is kind of like, I love seeing people believe me. I mean, I really love my people. But part of me was like, this is dumb. Why is this, young woman and her mother exposed? Why are they out here? They're here where we might have germs here, and I can love on them from afar. I've been getting good at it, so why I was so nervous, with my first one-on-one encounter, and I went into a clinic room instead of my office because we had to distance because she had her mother with her. No personal information being shared. So then in my office with a well-established patient too, I wanted so desperately to hug her. And it was good. And there's a place for it. She likes the opportunity to weigh in with the same scale. And there's something about presenting and like having witness to, and there's still a place for that.
Oh, absolutely.
But for the most part, I was like, why are we doing this? Like, I can't believe how effective the technology has been, at least in my specialty. And so I'm almost panicked about what we could be, how to minimize risk now still. It was a really strange but wonderful day. And our clinic is growing leaps and bounds. I mean, people really seeking help with this right now.
Well, and that leads me into the next thing that I think of. We know that there are shortages. We know that there are physician shortages, nursing shortages, respiratory therapy shortages. We know that people have trouble accessing resources, particularly in rural areas. We talk about our island. We love to go to a place called Beaver Island, and there aren't a lot of people there, but there's not a lot of health infrastructure there either because it's difficult to invest in that. So, but this technology breaks down a lot of those barriers.
Well, they've got a.
Well, yeah, it's not like Gilligan's Island or anything like that. It's good stuff, but it's not like a level 1 trauma. And I'm making bad examples here, but the point is, we have the technology to address some of the access disparities that we see, and potentially address some of the shortages that we see in certain specialties, or and again, there's not always going to be a substitute for a live visit. Just like in my specialty, I still have to do spirometry on somebody to get a good starting point for them. I can't, it requires a special device, requires coaching, all that kind of stuff. But after that, if somebody needs help quitting smoking, I'm doing that now as a community service for my group. Why can't we do that and bring in, instead of seeing a group of 10 people, why can't we see 100 people?
Yeah.
Make it easier so that they don't have to go out of the house or anything like that. You've done support groups. How many times have people talked about how nice it is that, they don't have to travel and things like that?
Well, that's the other thing. And we talk about access and disparities in rural areas and people limited by, finances and transportation and how much oxygen they have. And it's been so exciting to be able to reach people that with great care in this way. And so that part has been exhilarating, I'll say. And no, we won't go back, and nor should we, because there's a lot more we can offer in a positive way with the hybrid model. So.
And I want to acknowledge Jeannie Nelson, who the screen got a little hidden, so I don't know how long this has been there, but she is another one that the pandemic has hurt mental well-being. Very active in the community and still went shopping, and now isolated from everything because, like you were mentioning, the person that came in had to be distanced and all that stuff. When you have these chronic conditions, it's really tough to take those risks. And there's always the flip side to technology. Yeah, it's fantastic. We can do this. We can get groceries delivered. We can get, pretty much anything on earth delivered via some delivery, whether it's Amazon or eBay or, somebody will ship you stuff, groceries, food, all that. But there's still something to be said about that human interaction. You still need some contact, and, again, sometimes the virtual support, the interactive chats and things like that, sometimes those can help, but, still there's often no substitute for the real thing.
Well, and, they've done studies on mammals and primates that don't get much touching. They don't grow as there's just something about connecting energy fields, with people. However you look at that, I'm not talking about any kind of data around that, but there's just.
You don't have any data for the crystals and the alignments?
Not at this time.
Okay. Further research is indicated. Along those lines, again, we're talking about these access issues and safety issues. That is a major issue right now because 55% of the people in the survey said that they were scared to get health care. Particularly those who have had a household income reduction. And again, because we live in a country, and I'm not going to apologize for getting soapboxy here. We live in a country where you can go bankrupt, not certainly because you have a major trauma or something like that, but you can go bankrupt because you have diabetes or you have COPD or you have any one of a number of honestly easy to treat condition or easy to manage conditions, largely manage. But we don't like to provide that. And so, we don't like to pay oftentimes even for preventative services. I know a lot of them have been covered, that has improved somewhat, but
more of all of these weaknesses being exposed.
Yeah, again, this is an issue. Nearly half have said that they have failed to get preventative health care like wellness visits or vaccines or things like that because they don't want to get contaminated.
Yeah, risk to benefit fears, I'm sure.
And I think that's that's the biggest. Those are the biggest takeaways from the survey, and then the rest of the article is kind of looking at no single factor causes loneliness, but isolation can certainly do that for a lot of people. We're trying to be aware of loneliness and social isolation, virtual stuff. So yeah, that was the biggest thing that first off, I wanted to take accountability for my own tire fire this week and let you inform you that you're certainly not alone in that.
This is marriage goals, everybody. Marriage goals.
But then also to highlight the findings in this article that nobody is alone. I mean, we're all facing these significant challenges, and if you are, there's not something wrong with you. You haven't done something wrong. You haven't done something wrong by learning a new language in this. You haven't done something wrong by not taking up needlepoint or ceramics or any other hobby.
If you have, cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong if you have. You're not.
I'll tell you, more recently, I've had visits with people now, if I think of the timing, where, I see some people like every 3 months. And that's an interesting time frame now, going back to, or typically 3 months, but they were holding out for a live visit, but so we're going into 4 months of all this. And I have a lot of people say the same thing. And I don't know if you've experienced this, Mike, or with friends and family, but I hear a lot of, this has really messed with my head, Kelly.
Well, that's why we're here.
I mean, people of all ages and backgrounds and experience have just said, this has been rough. And there's nothing more specific than, man, it really, because I'll say, how's your sleep? How's it going with stress? And it'll just be, well, it really messed with me for a while. And I'm still kind of messed up, but I'm reclaiming my space or my routine. There's a lot of that happening. And I've had people with tremendous success, actually. And how wonderful. I would never want to put someone's light out. My goodness, and they're so inspirational. But a lot of people can't put their finger on it, but they're saying, it's just really messed with me. This was really hard on my mom. Or, this was really hard. I was trying to deliver things and check on, but this was really hard on my parents or my aunt and uncle who live in the woods. Or, it was really hard on my husband, or, sometimes, and that can be challenging for people. Thank you, I'm glad we have a shared experience, but it might be really hard for you if you couldn't relate to me at all right now. If our coping and our stress tolerance and our way, if our ways were so different, and then you couldn't connect or relate, and you might feel guilty or vice versa. And I'm seeing some of that with couples and people, and, no one to blame there. I mean, we all have different thresholds and coping and experience, and that's another thing that's stressing people, I think.
Oh, I
How
agree.
to support those in their nest.
I think we've seen that nationally. We've had a lot of people who, we obviously get along real well, but there are family units that kind of thrive on being separate. They can maybe get along for a while, for 4 hours or 8 hours or something like that.
Like, he's always there.
And then as soon as they have, they go over that threshold, then you start having those tensions because, maybe you have a certain amount of common interest, but then you run out of stuff to talk about.
I think that's a good point, because then you're like, am I still with the right person? It's been 20 years and we're different now. And are we still compatible? Do we still like each other? What we wanted, there is a lot of that. Like, man, he was at work in 10 hours and I didn't think I liked that, but now he's always there and he's always chewing, or just, there's a lot to all that.
Susan hopes that we stay safe, and I certainly appreciate that. We are doing our best, that's for sure.
Thank you.
We are continuing to wear our masks, and we're staying at home as much as possible, and we're still we're not. I I guess, taking advantage of some of the liberties that are now out there and the
We're
looser
happy on our
restrictions.
little hidey hole.
Yeah, and frankly, I'm anticipating them returning again before too long, so we don't want to get too comfortable. But one thing I wanted to throw out there that, this, I know not even enough to be dangerous. I know like a cheese grater amount of stuff about trauma. But I've experienced some, of course, and so looking at it through that lens, we have talked a lot, you and I have talked a lot about trauma-informed care and that sort of thing. I see a lot of this as like a collective trauma.
Yes.
That we all experienced essentially at the same time. I mean, it wasn't necessarily on the same day or anything like that. Even more so than things like 9/11 or Challenger or, those are things in my lifetime that were traumatic events. The things that I remember where I was when I found out about them. So maybe not at exactly the same time, but within the same time frame. And of course, with my experience of trauma, I lost my father young too. Another thing we have in common, of course. And it was unpredictable when I would get triggered, for lack of a better word. It was unpredictable when something would happen that would make me sad or make me upset. And even today, now and then, I have other or flashbacks of other traumas and things like that. And so I'm wondering if we're seeing that like fast forwarded to a degree, because we had our large group trauma. And now, depending on where we are in our local stages of the outbreak pandemic and all that stuff, or our connections to it, we're repeatedly traumatized now.
Yeah. It's kind of like wondering if there will be more bombs hitting our land.
And and the unknown is another stressor for a lot of folks. We don't know where we're going to be in 6 weeks or 6 months or...
Yeah, I don't want us to sound like a big old bummer. I mean,
No,
but I mean,
I think we're just trying to be
exposing
the explainers a little bit and trying to make people feel a little
common
bit better.
ground.
Hopefully, even if one person out there watching this can kind of connect with that and realize that, well, you've said a couple of times you wanted to know that you weren't alone, right?
Yes, and that's why I started the Zoom support groups too.
Yeah.
Just knowing that others can benefit from kind of sharing a space and supporting and just validating, but also encouraging. And so,
So, well, maybe not quite as long as our usual show, but we got pretty close. And one thing I can share, it's fun. I've looked at it. I've read a couple of leadership things and that sort of stuff. Back in the day when I thought I might want to be a director of something, and I told my kids that it's like being a grown up. You want to be a grown up until you grow up, and then it's like, why the hell did I want that? You want to be in charge of something until you're actually in charge of something, and then it's another dumpster fire after another. But one thing I did learn that I think is true, and I think it was something that I like to put out there, is we all want to belong. We want to know that we're not alone. We want to know that there are other people on our side that kind of get where we're at. And so I think it's important to come up with, things that can bind us together. So I was playing around, you guys can see kind of at the bottom of the screen here, or not if you're listening on the podcast, but we have a Fight Flight logo because our whole mantra is, you can't take flight to your best life until you resolve your fight, and we help you resolve the fight so that you can take flight. And now we have our first little item of, things that, a little unifying item here, right? A prototype coffee mug that I was able to put together online with the logos here. We go from fight to flight. And eventually I want to get some t-shirts and stuff like that available. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, a lot of that kind of printing is still on a massive delay, so that hasn't been a real feasible option. But these are available. If anybody wants to get more information about that, let me know, and we'll get those out there, and we can all be part of the Fight to Flight team together.
It's nice to be with a nice, cool people.
it's nice to belong.
It's nice to belong and not be around haters and
have your
and mean
people.
Yeah, have good people. You've had a lot of good people in your community of those affected by COPD, and so have I.
Yes, and
Yeah,
that has
with
been
obesity.
what has gotten me through. When I was doing the Daily Show, that was a
Our
fantastic. That
family.
was
Oh,
and letting getting kids involved and explaining to them about caring, for lack of a better word, and advocacy and all that sort of stuff. That was a real meaningful experience. And that's kind of stuff that, again, that was my silver lining, is that has, again, highlighted what I really want to do in the next phase of my career and everything, of my adulthood.
mm-hmm.
So it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, I was on a call today earlier, and the person I was talking to was saying, boy, there sure are a lot of obstacles to improving this certain kind of care. And I was like, yeah, but we can also look at it as a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I've
Because
seen some really good things.
in the words of the famous Jean-Luc Picard, things are only impossible until they are not. We have seen that a lot throughout civilization, where we never thought a thing would happen, or we absolutely knew what a thing was and our place in it and all that stuff.
I mean, who knew we would have this kind of technology?
Yeah, I mean, so we'll go ahead and wrap
Well,
things.
I want to throw something out there
Well,
that just
by all means.
so few things. I mean, I cry easily. I'm an empath. I'm passionate. Whatever. You know what I love, and so as we talk about things that are positive and the good things, is I am so moved when I see humans being kind to other humans, particularly strangers, or the unexpected friendship, and so I think I would like to hear and share more examples of that, what you've seen, or even joyous things happening in the neighborhood, like putting out, rainbows or, bears in the window for kids to go on a bear hunt. Just the ways that your community or things that you've seen supporting others, holding others up. I am seeing a lot of that. I love seeing that. And that reminds us of what's good and what is there, and I think even emerging through this. So I would like people to share with us, and maybe we can, on our next show, collect our own experiences and how other people share them, about what are those random acts or those things that made your heart sing. Because I think this has been so much and so overwhelming that I want to really give stage to that and let us kind of bathe in that goodness. I think it's time to find those things.
That's an excellent idea. I mean, these last two have been real. But because we want, again, want people to be on the team and all that stuff. But now that we've kind of vented or gotten it off our chest, now we can, it's like having a good cry sometimes.
Man, showed all the stretch marks, just let it all hang out.
But you know how sometimes, you have that big rush of whoosh, and then you feel better and you start to build up again.
Absolutely.
So that's what next week's show is going to be about. We already have our theme. How about that? We're a week ahead of schedule.
I like it. Hey.
All right, folks. So we'll put a couple posts out there through the course of the week, but send us your stories of random acts of kindness, unexpected bright spots in the darkness, the 1,000 points of light, I think was the old cliche back from the 80s. Tell us your fun stories. Give us your inspirational stuff. And next week's episode, we're going to focus on that a lot. So thank you again very much for spending part of, if you're watching us live, part of your Tuesday evening. If you're catching us either on the recording or the podcast, thank you for spending the last hour or so of what I'm sure is a very busy time in your life as well. I really appreciate you taking some of the time out.
I'm so honored by that anyone gives us that time.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
Absolutely. We had, we reached, I think it's 254 people or something last week, just on Facebook alone. So
wow.
So, but like, share, and subscribe to us. We're still looking for 100 subscribers on YouTube so we can actually give ourselves a channel name. Even if we never go above that, that's okay.
fine.
I just don't want the 20 random characters. I just wanted to say the best now, or whatever we can get
We
now.
have 100 friends. We might have 100 friends.
We should have 100
But
friends.
like us enough.
I would think so. Maybe.
All right, let's not burn any bridges, baby.
I just said I think so.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
All right. I think it's time for us to go enjoy some Taco Tuesday.
Right on.
All right. So until next week, everybody, my name is Mike Hess.
I'm Kelly Becker.
This has been Fight to Flight with Kelly and Mike. We'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.